Good morning. It's Tuesday morning, and on Tuesday morning, we are going to go to Matthew and read Matthew 13, verse 44. Tiny little parable that says, "The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which someone found and hid. Then in his joy, he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field." So let's imagine that you are at an antique shop someplace, right? And you see a bunch of old junky looking stuff in the back, and you're poking around, and you pull out some china cup. And you know a little bit about china cups, and you look at the bottom of it and you realize that this china cup was made in the 1600s by some famous guy in England, and it's worth several $1,000s. But you can get it for 20 at this antique shop. The antique dealer doesn't really know what he's got back there in the pile, so what do? Do you take it up to the front and say, "Wow, do you know this is worth, thousands of dollars?" Or do you say, and kind of stick it back under there and go get your $20 and come back and buy it for 20? I don't know what you would do, but the honest thing might be to tell the guy, but you never know. My father was a aficionado of model trains and told me the story once that some, I guess, acquaintance of his died, and the widow was selling all these trains, and she sold a box of train stuff to some guy for, $10 or something. The guy started looking in there and found down underneath all the stuff on top, in the bottom of the box were some brass train engines. Now, think about a model train. The engine is the heavy part that makes everything go. The rest of the cars are just little boxes on wheels. And these engines were made of solid brass. So they were very expensive engines. They're $300 or $400 each. And there were several of them in this box. And he went back to the woman and said, "Do you realize that you've sold me about $1,000 worth of train stuff?" And she says, "I don't care. Just take it. Get it out of my house, out of my sight. Just take it." And so he said, "Oh, okay." And he did. Same kind of thing. You find something very, very valuable, but it's kind of hidden in a box of otherwise what looks like junk. And here the man finds the treasure hidden in the field. So it's it's in the ground, and he goes and he finds it, and then he buries it again and buys the field. And of course, then he gets the treasure. So that's and so the parable is for us as we're looking around life. And the treasure is going to be the kingdom of God. Jesus, in Matthew, it's always called the kingdom of heaven. But the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure that's hidden in a field. So the kingdom of God, God's kingdom, is a treasure that's hidden in a field. And so what we are to do, is to sell all that we have then and buy the field. So everything else can be sacrificed for this one treasure. Everything else that we have, all the stuff that we value, all the things that we want to keep, ultimately don't matter much. It's only the kingdom that matters. And if we can sacrifice other things, then we get to the place where maybe the kingdom will matter to us, and we'll be able to get it. Now, I want you to look behind me and see all those books. And they just go on forever. I've got books on top of books. I inherited a bunch of books from a senior pastor that I had worked with who knew I liked books, and he liked books, and he gave me all these books when he retired. A fair percentage of them are in German, and my reading knowledge of German is somewhere between poor and abysmal. So I can't really get much out of those. They're mostly New Testament stuff in German. So I've got a lot of famous New Testament books, but they're in German. And so I've been thinking now, what am I going to do with all these books when I retire? What am I going to do with all these books when I die? Well, I joke with my children, oh, you're going to inherit all my books. And the kids all go like this, not me. This means not me, not me. And so I've got to find some young pastor who likes books who'd be happy to say, yes, I'll take your books. And then I can unload a lot of junky books on that young pastor. Because, they're classic books, and then they're books that are popular for 15 minutes when they're written, and no one ever hears from them again. And I've got a lot of those kind, too. Some of them I bought, some of them my friend bought, but they're old books. And a lot of times old books are just good for being doorstops. I had a friend in college who went with his granddaddy to a bookstore, and his grandfather was going through the bookstore very carefully and going, well, I'll take this book, and, ooh, I like that book. And he's pulling down these books, and the grandson said, Granddad, looking at the titles, he says, what are you, these aren't connected to anything you know about or that you're interested in or even to, each other. They're just random books. And his grandfather says, oh, I don't read them. I just pick out the ones that have a good-looking binding on it, so they'll stand there and look good on the shelf. Well, there you go. You could, some of that. There's some of that in the world, too. So I'm not condemning anybody who likes books or saying that you shouldn't like books. What you shouldn't do is download them onto a Kindle, but that's my prejudice. If you like books, great. But what are you going to do with them when you die? That's the question. And, the Salvation Army, the Goodwill, these kinds of places, they'll take them and they'll put them on their shelves and they'll maybe sell or maybe not. And after a couple of years, somebody will collect them up and they'll go to the dumpster, to the fire, somewhere, and we don't know. But so where we're going with this, don't let things like books or clothing or little china things that you like, don't let those things capture you to the point that you miss the kingdom of God. That's the point of the parable. So when you find the kingdom of God, sell everything else. Sell all the books, because the kingdom is what's important. Okay, we will see you tomorrow. I hope you have a great day. See you then.